Hi guys, welcome to the show. My name is Nicholas Audrey Moreno, and I'm the author of Humans Are Amazing, Discovering Your True Self. So recently I wrote a second book, and this book is called Becoming Ambidextrous, The Doorway to the Mind of God. So I'm extremely proud of this book, and in fact I was reading it last night again, and I'm just blown away that I wrote this. I really put a lot of time into this, but it came out great. And this book is different from the first book, because this first book is saying like how to become ambidextrous, and that you know, your organs in your body and heart, talking about different reasons and how to practice becoming ambidextrous. But in this book, what I'm describing is how the mind works and how the world works. I know that sounds kind of like, you know, what are you talking about? But what I've discovered is that my right hand is the opposite from my left hand. And it's like, what? Yeah, seriously. So I was born right-handed, and so in high school I just started training my left hand just to do everything: play guitar, write, draw, all the things I could possibly think of doing with my left hand. And so I did that for many years. So afterwards I felt like I became tired of using my left hand. I felt like I couldn't compete, you know, at college, at my job. So at that point I switched back to being right-handed. So the first time that ever happened to me, because when I started using my left hand in high school, I just went at it real gung-ho. I just kept using it, and I wanted to train it as fast as I could. So that meant putting more time into it. So I neglected using my right hand, and I did that for a long time. So I did that for a bunch of years using my left hand, and when I went back to using my right hand, I felt completely different. And it wasn't like I felt physically different, which is going to happen, but I felt mentally different. And I can say they're like opposites. And when I use my right hand, I feel more extroverted. I want to socialize with people, I want to talk more. And that's the opposite. The opposite occurs when I'm using my left hand, which is I'm more introverted. I like want to stay home. I want to just do things like I said I was doing, like play guitar, get better at using my left hand basically. But it was more like also mental. And I can describe it. It's like black and white. And so from learning that, from using my left and right hand, I started to really observe the rest of the world. And what I noticed in the rest of the world is everything has an opposite. So even ourselves, we have an opposite. Like, you know, if you look at your hands, they're not the same. They're like mirror opposites. We're symmetrical. So we're like inversions of ourselves. Like if you got a mirror and you put it right here next to your body, then the reflection obviously would be like the opposite of this side. And that's what this side is. Without the mirror, here it is. So we're like opposites of ourselves. And I did not know that was going to occur when I started using my left hand. I never, because as it was like an experiment. So, you know, I didn't know that was going to happen. And there wasn't anybody that can tell me that would happen also. I didn't really ask around. I just thought, hey, you know, I'll just keep using my left hand. But after I got tired of using my left hand, I went back to my right hand. That's when I discovered, wow, my brain thinks different. I became more social again. Because when I was growing up, I was very social. Extremely social. And I had a lot of friends, and I just hung out in groups with people and talk, and you know, we enjoy guitar and music and all that stuff. And when I started using my left hand, I didn't really notice, but I started to become more introverted. Like I didn't really want to talk to a bunch of people. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's the way the brain is designed, but you know, as I state in my book, 90% of the world is right-handed, or are right-handed. 90% of people in the world are right-handed, and 10 to 12% are left-handed. That's a small portion of people. and those people are like scattered in between the 90%. So people don't really study left-handed people to see if there's a, because the reason why they don't study left-handed people is because they don't expect that there's going to be a mental difference, and they haven't noticed that because, as I said, the population of left-handed people is real low and it's scattered among people. But that's what happened to me. I discovered that, oh my gosh, and I put a chapter 19, I believe, in my book is called Introverted, Extroverted, where I explain that. But see, that's like a tip of the iceberg. That's like dealing with the mind. But I also discovered so much more. So much more. But and I could break it down, which I put in my book. I could break everything down into 4 rules. 4 rules. So let me just give you those 4 rules right now. Alright guys, here we go. I'm going to give you the 4 rules that I put in my book, and these 4 rules break down the whole world and everything in it. My dog's here, so if you hear some noises, it's him. Hey, let me see you. Watch, he's right here. Come here, little kissy. Hi guys. He's a little superstar. Yeah, hey. He's Ambidextrous. Hey everybody. Alright guys. He's a good pup. He's friendly. He never hurt anybody. Oh, watch out. Okay guys, back to the rules. So, the first rule in my book that describes the universe, they all go hand in hand. It's very simple. The world is very simple to understand. I'll break it down for you. Here you go. Rule number 1 is one thing is actually 2 things. What do you mean one thing is 2 things? One thing is 2 things. So if you look at yourself, you're one person, but you have 2 sides. And as I mentioned before, those sides are opposites. They're opposites. So one thing is 2 things. So right now I just used the human body to give an example, but there's many more examples in the world, and you're gonna laugh when I break it down, because you're gonna say that's right, that's true. You know, when things are true, you laugh because you're like, it's true. So one thing is 2 things. These 2 things are opposites. Okay? As I mentioned before, like your hands, if you look at both your hands, they may look the same, but they're not the same. They're opposites. Like a mirror. Your eyes, everything is designed like crazy, like going that way, I guess. So, these 2 things are opposites. Your brain also, because your brain, even the structure of your brain, if you look at your brain, not your own brain, but like a diagram of the brain, you would see there's a line down the middle, right? That's crazy. There's a freaking line down the middle of your brain. It's called the Longitudinal Fissure. It's like the deepest groove, and it separates the hemispheres. But when you look at the hemispheres, there are what? They're opposites. So that's in your brain. So the 2 things are opposites. But I'll also explain that in the world, the physical world, not just human beings. So that was the second one. 2 things are opposites. So the third rule is these 2 opposites are symmetrical. Okay? They're symmetrical, the 2 opposites, as I mentioned. Like everything that's an opposite is like symmetrical. So it's as if they go hand in hand. For example, I guess your brain, as I mentioned, I started feeling like very extroverted here and very introverted here. And so, yet on this side, I like to play guitar, play bass, play drums. I do all kinds of stuff that doesn't interest my right hand, which is crazy. You know what interests my right hand? Is like talking to people, laughing, ha ha ha. And I get a lot of pleasure out of that with my right hand. But like, I will use my left hand to play my guitar, my bass, my drums. And I just like, this is really like, it's fun. But at the same time, mentally, I'm different. Like, I'm not, oh yeah. It's kind of so weird. So this is a trick I do. If I want to play my guitar, this is what happens when I play my bass and my guitar. I play them for like hours without stopping. That's what I noticed about my left hand. I do things like for like a long time, and it doesn't get me tired. I got all this energy doing it. But like I said, it doesn't help me socially. It's so weird. But, so let's say I just practice playing bass and guitar for like one day. And I'll do it for like hours, like I said, like 5 hours. Not kidding. And I won't even get hungry. And so I know that I'm going to become more introverted. So what I do the next day is I just go back to using my right hand a lot. I just go like do things right hand, and letting my left hand rest. So, you know, that was I went off on rule number 3 there, but you know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you guys everything because I think humans should communicate honestly with each other. What's the point of lying? And what am I going to get out of lying, right? So, rule number 4 is, and I'll go over them again real quick, briefly, because I don't want to take too much time. So rule number 4, these two things are, they complement. Okay? They complement each other. So as I said, okay, they complement each other. Yeah, because they're like a scale. These two opposites form a balance. So that's what people don't really realize, is that there's like much more to the human mind. I mean, I'm sure we could assume that, but we don't really know how to get there. But I figured a lot of stuff out by becoming ambidextrous, because I learned that these two sides are opposites, even in physical and mental. And then that the rest of the world has the same design, which is a duality. So that's what my 4 rules are saying here. Is the 4 rules are explaining the duality that exists in everything. So one thing is two things. There's a duality in everything. There's a duality in everything. Okay? And there's opposites. These dualities opposites. They're symmetrical in their structure. And then the two complement each other. Like a scale. One way I could just tell you real quick is like your feet. If you look at your feet, of course, like your hands, they're opposites. But what your feet do are balance you. Because if you had 2 left feet, you couldn't dance. But you also couldn't walk great, right? Or balance. So if you had 2 right feet, same thing. So these feet are opposites to give a balance. So I'm telling you. Okay, I'll keep going. I don't want to stall here. What I'm going to give you is an example of chapter 2, I believe it is. Chapter 2 is talking about atoms. Atoms. Okay. I hope you guys are enjoying this, and I'm trying to like do my best to describe what I'm talking about, which is really hard. It was hard to structure all this into like even 4 rules like that. I don't know, I just thank God, honestly, because you gotta be humble too, I guess. Yeah, you gotta be humble. So here's chapter 2, which I'm gonna explain to you real quick, is talking about the balance that exists in everything in the world. The way that I apply my 4 rules to everything in the world is from the smallest to the largest things. So I go from the smallest things, which is an atom. But in chapter 1, I start from below atoms, which are the things that make atoms. So that's like quantum physics, because quantum means small, and the physics is talking about like how things work. So quantum is small physics. So that's chapter 1, but on chapter 2 it's easier to start from chapter 2. Chapter 2 is atoms. Because most people understand atoms. Atoms are like, we're taught that in school a lot. So I'll show you the duality from that occurs in the atom. So here we go. So in the atom, we have a proton. I'll use all three colors. A proton, a neutron. I want to make sure I get this right. And the electron. Okay? Proton, neutron, electron. So, the proton, here goes with the duality. I want to just break it down. The proton is said to have a positive charge. Okay, and then the neutron, which is also in the nucleus with the atom, well, it's a neutron, so it has like a 0, because it's neutral. It has no charge, it's neutral. But then, see, the proton's positive, and the electron is said to have a negative charge. Yeah, you see what we got there? There it is, the duality. And it even exists in an atom. So we have a positive and a negative. And these charges are said to come together to attract each other and form a balance. So, as I said, look, that's like a human, a positive and a negative. Well, when the scientists name these positive and negative, it's not really, one is really like, they just gave them those names to describe that they have different forces. That's it. Like positive, negative. That's how they can describe it. It's like saying black and white. So, they don't know the exact differences between these charges. And that's the same thing with like humans. You don't know the difference between the mind, of the hemisphere of the mind. You may think, well, how does your mind think different if I use my hand? Well, if you think about it, your brain is controlling your hand. But if you start consciously using your hand to do things, then you're going to wake up a part of your brain that you have not used before. Because that part of your brain is what is for the left hand. I forget the word right now. But that part of the brain is functioning for the left hand. So if you start using your hand, you're also going to wake up a part of your brain that thinks. And that's what people don't realize. When they think about ambidextrous, everything is physical. I could throw a ball, I could run faster. There is a mental difference that you have to be aware of. So that's what I'm telling you. You can't just go straight left-handed. And you can't just go right-handed. You have to understand there's a balance. The important part of being right-handed, because 90% of the people in the world are right-handed. So it's like you want to kind of like fit into the majority, their mental state, which is different from the left hand. So another example, well, that's atoms. Atoms have opposite charges, and everything in the world works like that. And my book just goes from the smallest to the largest, applying my 4 rules, saying there's a duality. But I think the greatest thing that I figured out here is that there's a mental difference in the mind. It really is. And you could see, I've seen those kind of like drawings or photographs of the brain. One side's like all colorful, the other side has numbers. That is true. That is true. But they're not talking about your emotions and other things. In that little chart, they're just talking about like simple things. Those are external things, you know, play guitar and draw and that kind of stuff. But they're not talking about your emotions, your social. So this is diving deeper. This book is diving deep into the brain. It's diving into... Let me give you another example. Okay, with the duality, I'm going to be making other videos, so who cares? Watch, look, here we go. I'm going to give you another example real quick. of that duality that exists, okay? It exists in everything. That's so crazy. So I'll give you one. Here we go. I'll use a red pen marker. The next one is this one. It is, here we go. The sun and the moon. You know what I mean? See, they both look the same. They look circular. But are they not opposites? They're completely opposite. The sun is during the daytime. The moon is at night. Even the daytime is opposite from the moon. So like if we draw like an arch, you know how they draw arch to represent time? Like the moon's moving like that. Well, this would all be daytime, and that would be night. That's a complete duality. And even the sun and the moon, they're like opposites. You could look at the sun, you can't look at the sun at all, but you can look at the moon all you want. So sun throws rays, and the moon, well, I don't think it throws rays like the sun does. So there's a duality in that as well. So in my book, I'm telling you, it's just scratching the surface. I talk about organs in your body. I talk about, like the way you feel. I said your emotions and many things. So I believe this is going to help people really understand the human body more and the world around them. Check out my book. I'm going to leave a link below, as you know, in the comments. Super proud of this book. It's easy to read. Check it out. Becoming Ambidextrous, the doorway to the mind of God. Because we could understand more now. So alright guys, I'm going to hit you in the next video. See you guys later.